You're listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone. It is once again time for This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. I'm Hobbs. He's Ben. You're in Clown World. And boy, howdy, has it been a clowny good time. Sorry we didn't have an episode last week. The airlines can't get their shit together.
Yeah, I had to drive to Denver and pick up my wife, and she was delayed, and I ended up spending the whole night in Denver.
Lovely.
Which is worse places, but wasn't the plan.
It's not home.
Right. And next week I will be gone, so we won't have a show next week either. But we're here now to knock everything out.
And boy, howdy, has there been a lot of stuff to knock out in the last couple of weeks. So, the Charlie Kirk thing, of course, is still on the top of everybody's mind, even though it's been 2 weeks since that happened. There's been movement in uncovering the conspiracy plot by the deep state against the Trump administration with intel services documents pertaining to something called Arctic frost that was read into the congressional record.
My favorite Gatorade flavor, by the way.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know, it's not only is it a Gatorade flavor, but Arctic Frost is also a varietal of orange, which is obviously mocking President Trump because orange man bad. Continuing apace with that is the classification of Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. And just today, the president put out that he is authorizing the Department of Homeland Security to tap the Department of War for any of the personnel or material that they might need to go into Portland to protect ICE facilities, which have been under near constant attack since President Trump took office. That's one thing that's happened. What else has there been?
I mean, geez, that's about a whole show right there. I want to get into the J6 stuff. That seems to be probably the most dangerous thing on there.
Right. So it was recently brought out that, in addition to former FBI Director James Comey being indicted for perjury, which is another story that's at the top of everybody's mind, the FBI has admitted that 274 plainclothes officers with no identification were interspersed throughout the January 6th protest, which may not seem like a lot, but you have to keep in mind that that's only the FBI. That's not accounting for DHS, DOD, CIA, NSA, all of your various alphabet agencies. So the number of potential malign actors working on the federal payroll within J6 is currently up in the air, but no less than 274 as of right now.
Yeah, and they were there. I think the report said they were there prior to, during, and after. So
Yes.
These people were in the crowd before it got out of control. Who knows what they were doing in the crowd?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence as well as some video footage of people who many are suspecting were federal provocateurs doing things like breaking windows out of the Capitol building and then kind of making it look like one of the other people in the crowd did it. I've seen security footage of a guy like fighting to get in the door, and then he finally gets in the door, and a Capitol police officer is standing behind him who slams the door behind him, then like gives the guy a high five and walks him into the building. So there's a lot of shady stuff that was going on during the J6. To say that they were purely there as a security detachment is, I think, at this point.
Yeah, because everybody knows FBI is used for riot control.
Yeah. It's naive. And part of the report that this revelation came from also stated that many people within the FBI were becoming concerned that political biases were beginning to take over leadership of the FBI. at that point in time. So,
So that kind of, people give Trump shit for pardoning all those guys, but if the FBI agents were in the crowd doing who knows what, at what point is it entrapment? You know what I mean?
that's the question on everybody's mind. Another question that's on my mind right now is the fact that Christopher Wray, who was the FBI director after Jim Comey, uh, just blankly testified in front of Congress that there were no federal agents in the crowd, which is perjury. So I imagine he'll be coming up on perjury indictments next. Uh,
Well, then last December they said they had paid informants in the crowd too.
yeah,
I mean,
but that could mean a lot of things. For instance, the guy who was heading up the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, is a known federal informant. Under what capacity, I'm not 100% sure. I think that was stuff in his past where he was informing in crimes in other cities and whatnot, but whether or not he was still a federal informant at that time is, that's still kind of up in the air. But they threw him under the bus, and he was looking at like 20 years in prison after J6.
mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it just seems like such an abuse. The FBI had been infiltrating, right-leaning spaces for years and years and years. I mean, you have the whole Whitmer abduction thing.
Fednapping.
Anybody who's been involved in anything on the right has seen feds pop up, whether it's be in a Discord server. We've received weird messages on Facebook and, comments on YouTube and Rumble, whatever, Fed posting.
Mm.
So maybe, and we've talked about this, is like, why can't the FBI seem to infiltrate these leftist groups instead? And I'm kind of starting to wonder if that's what they're doing.
Well, I said it in the last show that we had that right-wing groups are typically of the, what we normally consider to be right-wing groups are people who are distrustful and skeptical of government authority. They want low taxes, low government involvement, low welfare state. So basically they want to strip most of the power away from the government and put it back either in local government or even in the hands of the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Right-wing groups, as we typically think of them, are a threat to the state. Left-wing groups are all about usually big government, which means that left-wing groups are typically not a threat to the state, but they are a threat to the people who are a threat to the state. When you have Proud Boys and Oath Keepers that are out there trying to like pull security during a George Floyd riot on various businesses in cities, and they're having to go to fisticuffs and beat the shit out of these Antifa-tards. Well, the state laughs at that because while they're beating up these black bloc communists, the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys types are not pointing their attention to the government. They're not being activists in the way where you go to like a city council meeting or you petition Congress or anything like that. If you've got your hands full fighting these shit for brains, you're not doing the things that would be a threat to the government and its power. And not a violent threat either, but like using the system as it's intended.
Well, and to add to that, it was in the news, Antifa was recently designated a terrorist organization, right?
Right.
And, I don't know that did the Biden or Obama administration designate any of the right-wing groups as a terrorist organization, or they just treated them as such in all manner?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the Biden administration did not officially designate any groups like Proud Boys or Oath Keepers, but they did kind of prima facie treat them that way. And because I think that an official designation of terrorism requires some evidence to back it up. Also, you also have to kind of think about how groups like Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and stuff have a clear, delineated membership and a hierarchical leadership structure. So to have the government come out and officially label that as a terrorist organization would then open the government up for providing the burden of proof that these groups are in fact terrorism, which would then open the government up for all sorts of like slander and libel charges.
Right. So they've got a leader. They can just go, "Are you a terrorist?" You know what
Right. And it's there. The thing is that the burden of proof would lie on the government to call these people terrorist organizations, and the proof is just not there. Think people like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, they have a bad rep, but everything that they did was strictly reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they did was, in a way, self-defense. Your city is burning down. You call up your local Proud Boys chapter. They stand around looking menacing so that a horde of morons doesn't come through and burn your life's work to the ground. That's not proactive violence. That's reactive violence. If it even comes.
And I guess there's some accountability there if there's a leadership structure. So, say you've got some shithead doing terroristic stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
That should be handled by their. I don't know how these things are organized. I'd never get involved with one after the whole Fed era, but there's some sort of accountability from higher ups to bring them in line. Right? Antifa has nothing, at least that I'm aware of, any sort of leadership structure in Antifa. Maybe there is.
Well, that's one of the things that they're using this terrorism classification to get into is like, where are these people getting their money? Where are they getting their marching orders? Because humans are not insects. We're not a hive mind society.
USAID, I mean, seems pretty obvious at this point.
Right. So they're opening up avenues now. Like classifying them as a terrorist organization opens up certain surveillance and intelligence gathering tools to the FBI to dig a little bit deeper into figuring out who is funding this, where are they getting their orders from. And we might see people like, I don't know, George Soros or Alexander Soros or any of these other left-wing influencer types are going to get rolled up into like a RICO statute.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, what are some left? Are there any left organizations that are equivalent to something like the Proud Boy? What is that one? Like there's a couple of.
You've got like the Socialist Rifle Associations, the John Brown Gun Clubs.
The John Brown Gun Club. I mean, they're not declaring those ones terrorist groups.
No, they're not, and I think that they might get, like I said, they might get rolled up into RICO, which is kind of a broad umbrella that you can use to pull in people on the periphery of these sorts of groups. But yeah, you got like I said, Socialist Rifle Association, John Brown Gun Club, Puget Sound Gun Club. You've got the Armed Queer Salt Lake City that's getting a lot of heat right now due to the thing that happened to Charlie Kirk. And there's these small fractured groups all over the country that have a left-wing bent and a militant aesthetic to them. Whether or not you can roll them all into some type of hierarchical or membership structure remains to be seen. You'd have to maybe use some type of a tool to dig into their lines of communication, because you don't know if just using an example, like the Los Angeles chapter of the John Brown Gun Club is in turn talking on like Discord or something to the Armed Queer Salt Lake City chapter, and they're exchanging information back and forth about, something like the movement of ICE personnel,
Right.
But that's one of those things that's going to have to be seen in the classification of Antifa as the sort of broad umbrella to dig into this as a terrorist organization is going to possibly be the statutory tool that they need to gather this information.
Right, and it looks like they're all scrubbing their socials.
Mm-hmm. Not Blue Sky, though, for some reason. They still seem to be very active over on Blue Cry.
Yeah. So welcome to the life of anybody on the far right in the last 12 years,
Anybody that had one of these anywhere in
Yeah,
their profiles?
anybody with a Boogaloo flag, having to scrub their socials so they don't get fired or whatnot.
Only if you're a coward. I shitpost on Maine.
Yeah. So they're finding out about that. Well, we'll see if anything comes of this. Antifa's been quiet for a long time. I think you and I both thought there'd be more action this summer, but nothing happened at all.
Well, kind of. Our buddy Mike Shelby over at Forward Observer, probably right before the inauguration, he was making the prediction that ended up being spot on, as usual, because he does good work over at Forward Observer, that we were not going to see a George Floyd Summer of Love style summer this year, but what we were going to see was small, highly concentrated, and very violent pockets of action.
Well, shit, I would count an assassination as one of those.
We have multiple high-profile assassinations or assassination attempts, 2 on Trump, 1 on Charlie Kirk. You have attacks on ICE facilities all across the country. And pour one out for your homie. Ice Cube's tour bus was burned to the ground in Portland because they saw the word ice and chimped out.
Yeah, we had that other shooting last week too. We didn't bring that up at the top of the show, and this goes into my comment about that maybe the FBI is starting to infiltrate these left-wing spaces, is having these goobers write stuff on bullets. I mean, that's my tinfoil hat theory, is they're in these left-wing spaces now, getting them to spout off and do stupid shit, which it seems like that's what the FBI used to do under Biden and Obama. They get these right-wing, autists to go do something stupid. Well, now it's on the other side that's happening.
Right. The writing stuff on the guns and the shell casings seems to be the new schizo meta.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is imported by the FBI. I mean, it's one of their calling cards they're having them do. I can't see any other reason for it.
Right. And it also seems really convenient that as the USAID money faucet was turned off, we went from having Daniel Defense ARs to 80-year-old World War II antiques.
Yeah. What was this last one the guy shot?
An 8mm Mauser. And not a sporterized Mauser either. This guy that was shooting at the ICE facility, it was like a rack grade military K98K. No scope, no laminated stock, no nothing. It was just he pulled it out of the armory in 1943 or something.
And that guy, there hasn't been much information on that dude at all. Have you seen much more about him?
I saw a picture of him in a furry costume, which is
oh, okay. Well, say less.
Yeah, a trend line that's starting to emerge there. But he had some writings that they found in his, not like written down, but on his devices or whatever, that his whole objective was it seemed like he didn't actually want to hurt or kill anybody, but he wanted to send a message to ICE that you never know if the rooftop is going to have somebody on top of it from now on. He just wanted to damage a lot of vehicles and a lot of property and stuff and just scare the shit out of ICE. And what he ended up doing was shooting 3 detainees and killing one of them.
How far away was he?
I didn't get that number.
I'm wondering if, he's using that 8mm Mauser and he's thinking, well, I'll just shoot way above their heads.
No, the way that he hit the detainees was he was just firing into a van, and they were in the back of it.
Good grief.
So, yeah, it was.
I wonder if it sounds like he planned some destruction, but I wonder if once he realized he gunned down some detainees, he just decided to end it there.
I don't think he even realized that. He was going to start shooting at the building or something, or he had already started shooting at the building, and this van pulls up, and it's like 6:15 in the morning. So he's probably thinking there's no way there's anybody in the back of that van. He just starts putting bullets through the back of this van. Wasn't shooting at the driver or the passenger seat. He was just shooting at the van. He puts a few bullets into it, and then I guess the ICE guys responded to him, and he put the gun in his own mouth and blew half his own head off.
Huh. Weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably expect to see more at this point. More writings on bullets, I suppose. I didn't see where this guy wrote on his gun at all. What was the story with his gun? Was it like his grandpa's or something, or what?
I don't have any details on what that is, but I'd imagine that it was probably like grandpa's war trophy or something along. Because you can't find a K98K in a gun shop anymore. That surplus is long since dried up.
No, yeah, that's two weird rifles in the last couple.
Yeah,
so weird. But let's move on from that one. We had that going on. Keeping on the Trump stuff. I mean, we talked about how Kash Patel is starting to do a slow release of all the shit the FBI's been up to. It appears.
Yeah, the Arctic Frost document is. They read it out in the public, or in the congressional record the other day, and they're starting to get the things that need to be declassified are getting declassified, and it's looking like Trump and the people in his orbit have been under surveillance by the intelligence community for a long time, and one of those was groups like TPUSA, Alex Jones and InfoWars, Roger Stone. It's like basically anybody who had any type of outsized contribution to the Trump campaign was under FBI surveillance to just. It sounds like Dragnet to get any information that they possibly can.
This was in 2022. A lot of this was going on.
Yeah, so it was right after he got out of office.
Yeah, they were grabbing, anybody around him. It seemed like they were spying on him.
Yeah.
They must have been setting up something for when he would run again. They thought they could, get some more info there, but all around, not a good thing. I don't care who is doing. If it was Trump doing this to somebody, it's also, obviously using the FBI to spy on political opponents is not how they're supposed to be used.
Right, but they're opening it up now, and of course there's all sorts of kvetching on the left about how this is weaponizing the government, the Department of Justice against your political opponents, and you're not going to like it if we take power again and we'll use. It's like, my brother in Christ, where have you been the last 10 years?
Right.
It's that we have that ship has sailed. The horses have left that barn. We are in that territory now.
I mean, they were investigating Charlie Kirk. I saw there were some attorney generals they were investigating. All sorts of stuff, just firing out subpoenas all over. And one of the main things that brought this to light was whistleblowers.
Yeah. Yeah, they either grew a conscience or they realized that it's only a matter of time before they get around to figuring out who was involved, and so they figure they would turn state's evidence now and save their own ass.
Got a couple comments over here too, real quick. Back on the rifle conspiracy about this civilian marksmanship program is involved in sourcing these rifles. I don't know if
No.
Car 98s would be in there. I wish.
Now, Car 98s aren't involved in the CMP. The CMP only, as far as I know, the CMP only deals in U.S. issued rifles and handguns to a certain extent. You can get 1911s and M9s occasionally through CMP, but most of what the CMP is involved in, you can occasionally get like a 1903 Springfield. They're mostly involved in M1 Garands, and they're currently involved in like M16A2 National Match. You're not going to get like an M. You might be able to get an M14, but it would be a semi-odd. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've looked at CMP. You can occasionally also get like M1 carbines, but the majority of what the CMP does is exactly what the name implies, marksmanship program. So they're going to be dealing with guns that are suitable either out of the box or suitable to be made into bullseye target rifles.
Mm.
Although you can occasionally, like I said, you get things like an M1 carbine or something. Yeah.
Also, apparently somebody had a comment about Hegseth calling an all-hands military meeting, but they said it was removed. So I don't know. We didn't remove it. I don't know what you said that pissed off the filter, but yeah, we didn't really mention that. It seemed like a pretty dumb thing to do to me. Why would you let the whole world know, hey, all our brass is going to be right here?
Yeah, and there's really no explanation as to what it is that they're going to be doing, because a lot of speculation around. But like, why would you call all of your military brass? If you're going to war somewhere, you're not going to call all of your general officers into one meeting. You're going to call like Northcom or CENTCOM or those generals into a meeting. So it's hard to say what's going on. Personally, I think there's going to be a leadership shakeup. I think a lot of these generals are going to get the option to cash out and retire early, because our tooth to tail ratio on general officers versus what we've got in the military and what we're doing right now is way too high. We've got too many stars.
Well, there was there was plenty of promotion points floating around for a long time. So
and that's the thing. A lot of these generals are not general material. They are guys who have piloted a desk for 30 years, and 30 years of service, it demands some kind of recognition, and the only real recognition that you're going to be able to get is a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a bird colonel at 18, 19 years of service, and then you get up to like 30 and you're still a bird colonel, you start to wonder, like, well, is it me?
Yeah, we brought it up before, but I hope someday the whole officer program gets revamped, because a 4-year degree is no longer any sort of qualifier for someone to be an officer. I mean, they're giving out for everything.
Right. And the NCO side of things too. How many master sergeants or sergeants first class did you know while you were in the military that had absolutely no business leading troops in any capacity whatsoever? They've just been there long enough to get promoted up the chain. And the military, the Army, I'm not going to say the military, the Army used to have a system for people who deserved more pay because of the time that they'd put into service, or maybe the specialization that they have in their job, but they did not exhibit the leadership qualities that would require.
Used to have. When did that end? Around Vietnam, you used to be able to go up to like Specialist 8 or something, right?
Exactly. If you guys know your Army rank, you got private, which is nothing. And then you've got private second class, which is your little mosquito wings. You got private first class, which is your mosquito wings and a rocker. And then when you get up to E4, it diverges into two different ranks. You can become a specialist, which they call the sham shield. It's a black upside down PFC thing with an Army eagle in the middle. Or you can become a corporal. Corporals nowadays are extremely rare outside of combat arms. Most everybody becomes a specialist. And then once you move past E4, the rank timeline reconverges back up to sergeant, and then staff sergeant, sergeant first class, master sergeant, first sergeant, et cetera, et cetera. But it used to be back in the day that once it divulged into corporals and specialists, then it would keep going in those two separate branches, where your leadership people were corporals, sergeants, staff sergeants, etc., and the people who were technically specialized, like good at their job and had a lot of time in service but weren't necessarily the type to be leading troops, they would be spec 5, spec 6, 7, and 8 on up. So they'd be getting the pay that was commensurate with their time in service and their skill, but they weren't having the leadership responsibilities that a non-commissioned officer was expecting.
Well, I'm sure every MOS saw that, but especially in the medics, there were some medics that were highly skilled, but they had no business leading anybody. But they've been in for long enough, so they were in charge of a whole platoon or whatever. When you could have a separate divergence where you could have medics who are highly skilled but couldn't lead a horse to water, and you have medics that lead. I'm sure it would end up being that way for everything if they brought that back. I have no idea why they got rid of it. It never made sense to me.
No, it's a good system, and they should not have gotten rid of it. And it needs to also be transferred over to the officer side of things too.
Yeah, as far as I know, the Air Force. I mean, all the branches are. I don't think they're. Maybe the Navy has two branches, but I don't know. I know the Air Force only has one route.
Yeah.
So and then Marines. You have warrant officers, but that gets on a whole nother weird section. But anyways, back to Pete Hegseth's things. Somebody commented over here. Mayor Butt, Pete, and Hunter are getting commissions. That's what the meeting's about. I don't know about that. So yeah, that's happening this upcoming week, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And they're going to have all our brass in one place. And dumbest thing I ever heard. This should have been an email.
It's okay. Yeah, it's going to be either this should have been an email or something really, really, really big is going to happen, and I don't think there's a whole lot of gray zone in the middle.
So Trump thing. We want to hit on all the Charlie Kirk conspiracies floating around now.
Oh my God, it's driving me insane.
And if you want to see some quality schizo posting, just start digging into Charlie Kirk conspiracies.
Yeah, and you ain't kidding. So I am still backing he was wearing a steel plate under his shirt. And I'm going with I'm 80 to 90% certain that I'm right. And I'll leave that 10 to 20% margin of error because I've seen bullets do some really weird shit. Right? Mm-hmm. And the other reason that I'm kind of sticking with my theory is his wife and the people close to him said that he wasn't wearing any body armor. Okay, so if they're lying, or even giving him the benefit of the doubt, if they're mistaken about the body armor, then they are only lying or mistaken about the body armor, and everything else makes sense. Bullet strikes at an oblique angle, goes up into his neck, does not exit the neck because most of its energy was bled away, striking the plate, absorbed by his body. He's sitting down right before he gets shot. You can see the clear outline of the SAPI plate right above his collar, or right below his collarbone. He gets hit. His body thumps back before his neck opens up from that kinetic energy transfer. I mean, to me, it all makes sense. And people are bringing up the fact that when he was walking around throwing out MAGA hats to his followers, you could see the outline of his pecs and you could see his nipples through his shirt. Okay? He did not go back behind the tent. He did not, have time to put something on. I think what happened was that he was wearing a compression shirt with a plate pocket in it. They do make these compression shirts. You can look them up online. The thing about these shirts, though, is that they are designed for level 2 or level 3A trauma plates that are usually made out of either epoxy laminated Kevlar or Dyneema, which are very, very lightweight, bullet resistant, and they're usually only up to handgun rounds. So these pockets are made for these very lightweight handgun rated trauma plates. If you put a steel plate in one of these pockets, especially if you don't have one in the back pocket, which you could clearly tell he didn't because you could see his back fat spilling over the top of his chair. If you only have one in your front plate with nothing in the rear to counterbalance it, that plate is going to sag really down low while you're walking around doing your thing, and then you sit down in your chair and your legs are going to push that back up into the place where it needed to be. And that's how I explain that. So maybe that was the explanation. The other possibility is is they are lying completely about what shot him in the neck. If they're lying about that, then they are lying about everything else. The
Right.
caliber of bullet used, the rifle that took the shot, the position of the shooter, the entire story about the guy turning himself into the cops, the video footage that has the guy running around on the roof and jumping off of the roof. Like, everything else falls apart. The steel plate theory is the steel plate theory. It was something other than a 30-06 from the roof of the Losi building. Just everything else falls apart. So I'm just applying Occam's razor here and finding the simplest solution, which to me is that he was wearing body armor and a 30-06 fired from a 143 yard away elevated position, skipped off of the oblique angle of the armor plate under his shirt, hit him in the neck, and did not exit. All of this trying to like big him up as the Man of Steel with an adamantium skeleton, that his body, his neck stopped a 30-06. No.
Yeah, the angels softened the bullet.
Yeah, no. And some of the theories out there are just mind-numbingly stupid. You got ones where people are saying, like, well, maybe it was a squib load in the rifle. Well, if it was a squib load from the rifle, it wouldn't have the trajectory to reach him. It would have hit somebody in the crowd on the ground. It would have arced in like a rainbow and hit somebody in the crowd. You have people that are saying that there was a shooter with a pistol in the tunnel that was running underneath of him that came up through the trap door and shot him with a suppressed pistol at the exact same time that the guy on the roof fired a blank charge. No,
there was a Jewish gun box in one of the cameras.
Yeah, Jewish gun box in the cameras. One of his own security guys shot him with a pen gun. The one that I think is the most like, what the fuck are you guys thinking, is that there was a shaped charge in the lav mic that you see clipped to his shirt. Or the microphone that he was holding himself because he kind of like leaned back and it like, I mean, guys, simplest solution. Armor plate, troon-loving faggot on the roof.
Because obviously that kid isn't part of a major conspiracy, or he would have blown his brains out.
Yeah,
that's what happens with those guys that are involved in those. And he hasn't started talking yet, but I don't know why this kid would. I mean, I'm interested to see what he's going to say, but obviously he would probably say something.
Yeah, and like I said, I will. If it turns out that bullet hit him where they said it is, and it hit his spine, and it took like a 90-degree turn and followed his spinal column down into his chest cavity, and that turns out to be what happened, then, like I said, I've seen bullets do some weird shit in my time. It is highly unlikely.
Yeah, and then they started going into all the weird conspiracy theories about how Erica's taking over Turning Point, and how I guess she did beauty pageants at one point.
She was former Miss Arizona.
Yeah. And she was a Trump plant to get wedded to Charlie, and this has all been part of the plan.
She wasn't a Trump plant. She would be an Israeli plant because they met in Israel.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Trump was involved somehow with it. Israel's been involved too. She had some Romanian angels thing. Did you see that one?
Yeah. She's banned from entering Romania because her organization is charged with child trafficking.
Yeah. But you can find articles on all these, but they don't really back up the story too well. It's like a one sentence blurb. Sure, the organization she's with is banned, but she wasn't working for him at the time. It's just, there's a lot of theories going around about it.
Yeah, and
and she like did the rock on sign or something, and
it's American Sign Language for I love you.
Yeah,
that's
apparently it's Baphomet. Also, it's the sign of Baphomet, or
that's Baphomet. That's ASL for I love you.
So yeah, all those are floating around about her. It's schizo posting.
Oh yeah, and it's great. And the part of me wants to believe that all of these weird schizo posting red herrings that are being dragged out is kind of the point. Because while we're sitting here arguing with each other about the minutia of what went on and what's going on behind the scenes right now, they're doing crazy shit like voting in Congress to not release the Epstein files 1 hour after his body hits the ground.
Yeah, Massey was pushing for that, and so he ended up not getting enough votes, I take it.
Well, he's still pushing for it, and God bless him for it. But the thing about the Epstein files is like right now, I think that they're gone. I think that we will never see them because I don't think that there's anything to release because I think all of that information was deleted before.
Well, I thought didn't Mike Johnson come out and say that Epstein was working for the CIA or something? What?
Mike Johnson didn't say that. He said that Trump was actually a federal informant working against Epstein, which we already knew that because he was instrumental in the 2009 case. But the who was it that came out and said that Epstein was officially a CIA asset this week or last week?
I don't remember.
It might have been Mike Johnson, but yeah, he was, and we knew that too. He was also probably working for Russian FSB, British MI6, Israeli Mossad, and anybody else who wanted to pay him for the mountain of blackmail information that he had on the world's most powerful and rich people. Because that's what people like him do.
We had a comment back on why Hegseth was having the meeting. Either no more National Guard special duty work, or the top leadership are getting surprise tape and wait. That would be a good thing to do.
I saw a picture today of an Air Force barracks where somebody had hung a sheet out of their window. It said Hegseth, PT the Generals.
I think that'd be great. Get them all in that room, and then just in comes a whole swarm of people with tape and scales.
Can you imagine the Secretary of War standing in front of a formation of generals, and he calls them to attention, tells them to dress right dress, half right face, front leaning rest position move, and just starts making them do push-ups for being a bunch of fuck-ups over the past 25 years? I'd pay to see that. Put that on fucking pay-per-view and you could pay down a significant chunk of the U.S. national debt.
They're packing up for the meeting at the bottom. It says, bring PT gear. Yeah, that'd be great. One other thing. Oh, internationally, it appears that Russia is sending drones over Europe at this point.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Jets are flying over Estonia.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, what would be any logical reason that Russia wouldn't want to push those boundaries?
None. It's the same logic as Bashar al-Assad gassed a village of his own people a few days after Barack Obama said that use of chemical weapons would be the red line that got the U.S. involved in the Syrian civil war. Mm-hmm. It's obvious bullshit. Or it's a Russian jet that doesn't know that he's over Estonian territory. Accidents happen. The fog of war is real. Instruments sometimes fail or give false readings.
And I wish the leaders of Estonia would have some balls in. All right, if Russia's going to do that, go fly one of yours over their territory. See what happens. See if they're going to, tit for tat. Let's see how far they want to take it. If they are flying over Estonian territory, President of Estonia, send a plane out over Russian territory. See what they do.
I would prefer not to get involved in a NATO world war. Thank you very much.
Oh, we got an answer for all those immigrants, though, at that point.
Yeah, all of the white indigenous populations of Europe go die in a ditch, and Muhammad takes care of your wife and daughter while you're away.
Yeah, I was wondering that, they keep talking about land war with Russia and Europe. Do they even have the police force to round up all those immigrants and force them into service? You know what I mean?
They won't.
Yeah. I
Because
don't think they could if they wanted to.
that's not the plan. Like I'm making a facetious joke about it, but I'm 100% certain that that's the plan of the EU, is to replace the troublesome, independent-minded, white Christian indigenous men of Europe for easily malleable, low IQ state dependents from the third world.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the joke.
I mean, apparently Israel is branching out into taking over Islamic leadership with Syria. So, I mean, who's to say they couldn't? They're not currently working to get, somebody in power in the Islamic faith.
It's possible, man. There's a lot of weird things going on as far as like leadership shakeups go.
Yeah, and also Yad Bibi came to the UN. I don't know if you watched any of that speech.
I didn't watch any of the speech, but I know that a huge chunk of the ambassadors walked out of the room, which essentially left only people that were sympathetic to Netanyahu in the room. So, like, everything he said was like, woo, woo, wow, we love you.
Yeah, he had a couple please clap moments. I'm trying to find a picture of the graphic that he held up that was showing pretty much the whole Middle East, the blessing, and it shows Israel controlling large swaths of the Middle East, and then it shows the curse, and it's all the rest of the Middle East. Here, I got it here. So I guess basically he was outlining what we can expect to be doing for the next couple decades.
Watching Israel gobble up the Greater Israel Project.
I'm trying to find a good picture of this. Here we go. And, I think we're still running off that same Bolton plan of taking over the entirety of the Middle East. Here, I'm trying to share it here. Here it is. The curse. That's everything that the U.S. is going to be taking part in the next 20 or 30 years, I suppose.
Thanks. Sure.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I want to send my boys off to.
Yeah. And the blessing, I guess, they're counting Syria as already part of their blessing.
What's that funny meme saying where it's born too early to fight in the Middle East, born too late to fight in the Middle East, born just in time to fight in the Middle East?
And the interesting thing about the graphic that he brought up of the blessing, it's got Saudi Arabia on it. It also had India. So I guess India is part of it's Egypt, Saudi Arabia, India, and whoever's south of Egypt. I forget that is. But that is the
Ethiopia.
blessing. Ethiopia. That's the blessing for Jews.
How does are you India?
India, yeah, that's part of their blessed group.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm looking at the graphic right here. He's got India marked as part of his blessed group.
Good luck. I mean, the Indian Army's nothing too spectacular, but there's 1.5 billion of them, so you go right ahead and try to conquer that.
Right. And in Trump news, at the UN, his teleprompter broke, which is no big deal for Trump. The escalator broke, and then there started a conspiracy theory because the dude who shot up the ICE van, his dad worked for a escalator company.
It's all connected, man. No, the escalator and the teleprompter are. It's pretty well known that there were UN staffers that were talking in fairly open channels about pranking President Trump, and the escalator went off, and then the 15-minute speech that Trump was supposed to give with his teleprompter, when his teleprompter went out, he just decided to riff extemporaneously for 55 minutes. So, joke's on you, retard.
Probably the last, one of the few political figures you would not want to do that with, because perfect at riffing. I don't know why they would have been thinking that, but
It's not Joe Biden.
As the UN's a waste of time and space, and we should just pull out of it anyways.
Yeah, kick them out of New York. Let them go sit over in Brussels, where you know that they want to be, and we'll just take care of business over here.
Yeah, it's just a venue for a bunch of other countries to sit around and masturbate each other about how much they hate America while they're here. America.
Yeah. But I think possibly the biggest turncoat slap in the face aspect of this particular United Nations assembly, other than existing in the first place, because I think that's pretty bad, but was the fawning, disgusting rub and tug that General Petraeus gave to the new president of Syria, who is a former Al-Qaeda jihadi.
$10 million bounty or some shit, right? Now he's just walking around the streets of New York.
Yeah. Absolutely disgusting. I've seen so many veterans that are just like, I was fighting this motherfucker 10 years ago. And now General Petraeus is up there giving the old fucking handy right there on stage, talking about how great it is to have him here. It's like, Petraeus turned out to be a real piece of shit.
Yeah. There's one other thing I wanted to hit on before we... the government shutdown.
Slash it.
Yeah, it was funny. So the Democrats threatened they were going to shut the government down to the Republicans, and the Republicans were like, okay, bet.
Yeah, the online discourse that I'm seeing is the Republicans saying that the Democrats are threatening to shut down the government unless they get concessions passed, which is basically a whole shitload of money for USAID and free health care for illegal immigrants. And then the Democrats turning around and saying, actually, the Republicans control all three branches of the government, so it's not our fault if the government shuts down. And meanwhile, middle America's out here going like, good, shut it down.
Yeah, they're starting to realize that if they do shut stuff down, that gives Trump and the administration a lot more leeway to get rid of employees again.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking on that. It doesn't make any sense when you're in the party of big government and you're going to be like, well, if we don't get our way, we're going to shut the government down. They're not, but they're supposed to be the small government party. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. So they apparently, once they realized that their gambit was stupid, they went back to the drawing board, and now they're not planning on shutting the government down, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, anybody's guess.
But that's coming up next week. We got the government shutdown and Hegseth bringing all the generals in, coinciding. Should be interesting. And like I said, we'll be gone next week. After that, we'll be back. Thanks for joining us. roadsnumber2liberty.com for our merch. R2L Pod at Twatter.
At R2L Pod on Twatter.
On Twatter. On X. AlexJonesStore.com/R2L. Check out that stuff. We didn't even get into Alex Jones' new upper lip decoration.
No, he only had it for a few seconds. A few segments of his show the other day. He shaved his mustache into the Charlie Chaplin, we'll call it. And like I was driving home from Grand Island, and he came back in from a commercial segment to Erica, and I about went off the road. I was laughing so hard.
What the fuck? So catch us there. Our Roads Number 2 Liberty on YouTube, on Rumble. We're also on Facebook, but we're always shut down there. So thanks for joining us, and stay honky.
Where's it at?